Hey, this is Rob with Old Guy Tech TV, Opinion versus Opinion for July 2nd, 2014. And with me are my fellow discussion type people. On my right is Jonathan Charney, and the big box on the left is John Manajastic. And excuse us if we were a little rusty. We took some time off to do some things. John is down in the LA area right now, and I took 10 days to take my motorcycle up to Washington and Oregon, and we had a good time. And now we're back and trying to get back into the saddle. And Jonathan had a poll that he decided that he wanted to bring up. And so we're going to let him talk about this poll. Since we practiced, maybe we'll get it right this time.
Yeah, I figured I'd begin the
become a POLE.
Yeah.
I figured I'd start the show with a bang and end with a whimper. So here it is. It says, and the headline for it is, Barack Hussein Obama is worst president since World War II. A plurality of voters think Barack Obama is the worst president ever since World War II, a new poll says, according to Quinnipiac University poll Wednesday. 33% of voters think the current president is the worst since 1945. Obama's former President George W. Bush came in at second worst, and 28% said Richard Nixon was in third place. 13% of the vote after Jimmy Carter, who 8% of voters said was the worst president in the time period. No other presidents received more than 3%, but my favorite president of the 80s, the 35% voters said Ronald Reagan was the best president since World War II. Second was Bill Clinton, and third was John F. Kennedy.
Interesting.
And it was said that it was 1,446 voters were contacted via landline and cell phones with a 2.6% margin of error.
Except at the very front, you said a plurality of those surveyed.
Hey, that's what they said, not me. I didn't write the article.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you, there's a great amount of difference in a polarity and a majority.
We live in a very relativistic society. It's relative.
And this is my. It's like deja vu all over again. Is that, nobody's doing anything. He's the worst there's ever been, and then people got all twisted and out of shape. Part of his problem is he telescopes what he's going to do. He just shut up and do it. He'd be all right. Because when he said, I'm going to take executive action on immigration, it just tells the other side, so they can come up with talking points for the next day. This poll was taken during Bush. It was actually taken, the two Bushes in the back polls that I saw.
George H.W. Bush.
H.W. and W. were both rated the worst presidents of all times. H.W. only getting one term.
I do have to say that Nixon technically has to be the worst president since he was the only one who was actually left during presidency. So,
Jonathan, I don't want to get insulting, but that's what you know about the presidency. Actually, Richard Nixon, as a president, was a very good president.
And we had that discussion before.
Believe it or not, John, even though you were being very condescending, I actually know he was considered a very good president. The only problem is he kind of stepped in it and was getting impeached. And unlike Bill Clinton, was actually going to be removed. So therefore, he is the worst president because he was actually going to be forced to leave.
I think Nixon was a good example of. I think Nixon was a good example of. You know what? If he had fessed up right off the bat, I don't think he would have ended up being impeached.
Wasn't his nature.
Yeah, no, I know it wasn't. It was the nature at the time. It was.
Nixon opened up China.
Yeah.
Nixon.
He was a great president. He did a lot of good stuff. I mean,
my father's ashes are shifting while
I'm sure, but mine, so are mine. But
no accolades from me for Ronald Reagan, none, on any level.
Well, you're welcome to your opinion.
I don't know if he was really good on those celebrity roasts.
Well,
he was an actor, and that's what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And when you accuse, Nixon in the 18 minutes, when you go taking their Fifth Amendment, Oliver North walked all over the Fifth Amendment to cover Reagan's ass because he couldn't say in court what was going on. You have to remember there was a small concern called the Iran-Contra, that we were selling weapons to Iran to fund a revolution. And come on. I mean,
with
Reagan
that,
was the best acting president we ever had.
He looked and acted presidential. And I think that's almost all it takes.
I do want to. Sorry, I don't
he
mean to cut you off, but I do have a
acted like
question.
father on Father's knows best.
Well,
John brought up something far as he was selling weapons, but from everything I've heard, every president has been selling weapons or giving weapons. I know H.W. Bush did it, Clinton did it, and I'm pretty sure George W. Bush did it.
When did Clinton do it?
Every president has sold weapons to foreign countries.
When did he do it? I've become, and this
That
is
I
the
didn't-
way, and unfortunately, Jonathan, and I'll tell you this, with conservatives that make allegation, and produce no evidence. Oh, everybody's. If everybody does it, who the hell cares?
Well, the United States is the world's
John,
largest arms dealer.
The problem is it's true on both sides. And so where do you take what road do you take or what path do you choose to believe? We're all welcome to believe it, and I think
in this case that Obama probably has funded less weapons to foreign countries to go to war than any of the above. I mean, because Cheney's trying to rip him a new orifice because he's finally getting out of Cheney's war. And he's wrong for doing that.
We need where I stand. I think we need to be out of Afghanistan, out of Iraq, and just let them do what they've been doing for the last couple of thousand years.
George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, if you want to say it like Chris Matthews, but Wolfowitz and the whole bunch took us in there under false pretenses. They wound back in there again because they made nothing but effing money till it was dripping off. I mean, I love the one with I think it was Wolfowitz where he's going, well, their oil alone would pay for the war.
Right.
Well, we sure shit didn't get their oil.
No, because we don't take the spoils of war anymore. That just isn't done.
And it costs us trillions of dollars and 4,500 dead Americans.
Okay, I did find something. Granted, not the greatest source of information because I didn't have the chance to look it up. It says. Let's see. It's early on, Clinton required our diplomats to be shills for armed merchants. During the Clinton administration, U.S. arms sales more than doubled from 93 to 97. The U.S. government sold, improved, or gave away $190 billion in weapons to virtually every nation on Earth. I can't find any other source, but
you realize that part of our balance of payments and what we do is sell weapons to other countries because we make the best and we have the facilities to make a lot of weapons. We are a weapons dealer. We have been for a long time.
We spend more money than anybody else.
But when we sell weapons to the Iranians to fund a Central American faux revolution, because you can't fund it to Congress because it's illegal, that's pretty heinous.
So we beat that dead horse around for a while. What's the feeling for these? Where the president has an opportunity to overturn or make opinions. For instance, examples of the Supreme Court. Obama has endured a painful Supreme Court term. I mean, because we just had to deal with Hobby Lobby, right?
The Hobby Lobby decision is very narrow. And in the end, probably won't affect that many people.
No.
The Hobby Lobby's coming under a whole lot of crap afterwards because they do pay for vasectomies and Viagra for the male employees.
But they do also pay for 16 out of the 20 on the list birth control, Plan B, IUDs, and I don't remember what the other 4 were. The ones they don't pay for.
Well, I think
they have the choice not to pay for now because they have a Supreme Court decision.
Right, not to pay for abortion, I think was the main issue.
Extremely narrow.
Yeah.
And it's I'm halfway through it because I've been reading Ruth Gator Ginsburg's dissenting opinion of some 35 pages.
I did learn something.
I think they effectively pissed off the women of America by doing that. And it was 5 guys deciding whether women's contraception is okay.
I think it's different than that, but I can understand your position. As far as the Supreme Court goes, it was a very narrow decision, and it had to do with the Affordable Care Act having to pay for abortions. Now,
And it gave the corporation, it gave a close-held corporation, which is 89% of the corporations in the United States. If what it gave is more than free speech rights to a corporation. I'm saying by being closely held, it could have a religious point of view,
Correct,
and not want to provide these services.
yeah.
It opened up a can of worms.
Well, the interesting thing in my research is that 2 years ago, the Supreme Court went the other way. So what we're seeing is we're seeing the Supreme Court within a 2-year period of time flip-flopping, which is very
Because
interesting.
you have Alito, and as Alito goes, Thomas goes. So there's two.
Yeah, but they were there 2 years ago.
I did have the kind of conversation on Facebook, and one of my friends' points was, whether valid or not, comment was, because men have two options, women have 16 out of the 20. Stop bitching. You've got options. I don't know if that's fair or not, but it was still some of the opinions I've read.
Well, here we are again. Like Wendy so nicely said, here's three guys talking about a woman's issue. And
again, happy birthday, Wendy. Wendy was like earlier this week.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way the Supreme Court went.
And Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote an amazing dissenting opinion.
Right.
Sorry, John. Didn't mean to step on you there.
But in general, it deals a blow. I mean, if you really want to go for a Supreme Court deciding against the president, it was the vacation appointments.
Oh, that's what I was going to go next.
I did want to say something, though, about what we just talked about. I'm actually surprised they took this case because...
And other courts would not. Believe me.
It's because they haven't taken other cases that, in my opinion, were more precedent, like any Second Amendment cases, Fourth Amendment. This one seemed like, why would you... I don't know. It also went against what they did before, allowing Obamacare to be legal. It's also stepping on religious rights if they voted for or against it. So why put yourself as a target? It seems like a bad decision to take it.
Legislating from the bench.
Well,
it's simple.
That's why we have and then we have a president who's using executive powers, where the question comes in: does he have the right to do?
Yes, he does.
Well, he does,
have the right to
well,
do what
so says John Majestic, but there's other scholars who are saying no, he doesn't.
Well, here's the question. I thought the presidential power... Wait, hold on, please, hold on, stop. Before I get it, that's at least...
said there are scholars. Who?
Well, wait, hold on. Wait, before you get in this discussion, at least describe what the presidential power / executive order is. From everything I've ever read was the fact that he has the right to modify an existing law, not add to. Now, so what does he do? What can he do?
An executive order is exactly what he said it is. We have an immigration problem. We have thousands of Central American children at the border that have no place to go.
And the border, they're going over the border.
Well, they're not really going over the border. And believe me, it wasn't a bunch of wacko liberals that stopped the bus yesterday and interfered with these people being transported to someplace where they can at least get a fair hearing and fair shake at the border. We're doing what we do as Americans. We have extended something we've never done before. We've legal representation of these people. We want to put them through the system. 98% of them will be rejected and returned. In an interview that he said, he looked in the camera and said, "Do not send your kids up here. We're not letting people in." And what's the motivations for that? Everybody wants to blame it on Obama, but it only generates about $450 million to illegal traffickers in Central America and Mexico. And nobody's walking through Mexico all by themselves.
No. And illegal immigration has been a problem for the last 30, 40 years. So you can't really pin it on one person.
It really hasn't been a problem for the last 30, 40 years. What the problem is that Americans think that Mexicans take their jobs. Well, number one, it's a white man that's hiring, so tell him to stop giving them money. And they won't have a job, number one. Number two, some hung around long enough and got in on amnesty. This current immigration bill is not amnesty. Far from it, if you read the bill.
So
why everybody's, when he says, look, we've got a problem here, it's got to be dealt with, they've said, no, we're not going to vote on it. It's a burning problem. It needs to be handled. And you can handle it through an executive order.
What happens under Bush when the Republicans said the same thing and the Democrats dragged their feet?
Well, look, I don't think there's been a a good answer to the immigration policy on either side.
By the way, Jonathan, you remember who sponsored that bill during the Bush administration?
Not off the top of my head,
It's
no.
called the Kennedy-McCain bill.
Right. And McCain got a lot of crap for it. But, I mean, as far as the Republican goes, McCain was probably the most pro-immigration senator.
It's the smartest. He and Jeb Bush are the two smartest guys about immigration.
About immigration, exactly. And I think it's an issue that, I hate to see it to be a party issue. I think it's because it's not just a party issue. It is a United States citizens issue.
Well,
it's our whole country.
Let me bring up a piece of ridiculousness. John Boehner last week, I'm going to sue the president for not faithfully carrying out the laws of the United States of America.
Yeah, I did.
I haven't heard anything about the lawsuit because he has no standing. It just can't be done. So he threatened to sue him. The reason why he threatened to sue him is because the Tea Party and the constituencies in his party want to impeach the president. Well, when they impeached Bill Clinton, what effect did that have on the midterm election?
I don't remember what
The
what
Democrats took the House.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Was that the first?
With America,
Was that the second part of his
from
presidency?
Georgia? It didn't work out so well. So now he's put his foot in it, so he's going to sue the president. The president says it's a stunt. All of it's a stunt because we got no stinking jobs out there.
Well, so what are you
moving
saying?
Forward on education, we're not doing anything about anything. We're just pissing and moaning at one another.
Well,
allegations from one side, and the biggest.
all right.
The biggest rank in the president
Here's what's going
is
on.
the
Middle class families can't wait for the Republicans in Congress to do stuff. Okay, that's the president's point of view. Right? He says, you guys aren't doing anything. So he says, I've got executive powers. This is what it comes down to. And I'm going to use them. And he's telling Boehner, go ahead and sue me. I don't, what are you going to sue me? What are you going to sue me for?
He's a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah. So, so here it is. You got Boehner saying, we're going to sue you, Mr. President, for your use of executive powers. The problem is, that's his right as president to use his executive powers.
It's the only recourse that he has in some cases. If he sees that a situation is, I gave an example. Somebody was regaling against executive orders. As you know, Obama's had 182 or 168, one or the other, not 982 like it's been reported in some places. He's at a lower pace than George Bush or H.W. Bush. The highest executive orders was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was president 4 times, but World War II and the Depression and the fight that he had with the Supreme Court and everything else, executive orders were issued. As somebody was saying, I said, they were upset about the kind of orders Obama's, and I said, like the one where he admitted the immigrant kids under what would be the DREAM Act. I said, how does that compare with FDR issuing an executive order that interred all the Japanese American citizens in the United States and took away their property and their money?
And don't forget about the ones that he revoked the citizenship of.
Yeah, so
He
what
never
he's
revoked
saying,
any Japanese citizenships. He just interred them.
yeah, they were still American citizens.
Because I was reading otherwise that there was a section that he ripped the. I have to refine that
No,
again.
you know what? Maybe one or two. It may have been for other reasons, and there may have been some legitimate spies, but the vast majority were no different than
Most
our
decorated
folks.
unit
Yeah.
in the European theater in World War II, the Japanese.
Okay, according to this, Barack Obama, according to presidency.ucsb.edu, Barack Obama's total in the first part of his presidency was 147. Second one is 35 total executive order uses. And the most that I can find on this list is Woodrow Wilson and Theodore Roosevelt, both Theodore Roosevelt at 1,081, Woodrow Wilson at 1,803. FDR.
522.
Yeah, 3,522. Yeah, so he is kind of, he used a lot less. George W. Bush, 291. William J. Clinton, 364.
In the case of Woodrow Wilson, you have to remember that Woodrow Wilson was elected to a Republican Congress and Senate because Teddy Roosevelt split the Republican Party. That's how Wilson got elected president. So Wilson had to do almost everything by executive order because, they weren't going to
They weren't
ratify
gonna do it, right.
anything he sent to the Hill.
Well, I think we're facing a situation again where Congress needs to start learning to work with each other, and this is the whole issue. Love him or hate him, as far as our president goes, he's got a point. He says, Congress, get off your asses and let's get something good, bad, or indifferent. And that's what that's what Congress has to do. They have to get up. Let's look at these things. Let's answer a lot of the questions. I mean, we've got a situation with the transportation bill that's sitting out there that's been waiting to be voted on, and Congress isn't acting on it. There's the possibility of losing nearly 700,000 jobs because the Congress will not go ahead and pass the Transportation Act that needs to be passed.
If Boehner would bring the immigration bill to the floor on an up and down vote, it would pass, and you could then start forming a bill that's workable. But he won't even bring the bill to the floor.
I think we have this countrywide, because I know here in California, it's the same thing. Now that the Democrats have the supermajority, they roll over everything. It's because the Republicans in California, it's like, wait a minute, that's So I think it's the same things in every state. I think we're coming to the point, but everybody's refusing to work together.
Well, but in California, there no longer is a supermajority.
Oh no, and whether you like them or take it,
Mr. Yee and a few other indicted politicians fix that.
See, the most amusing or horrifying is you have people who have been lifelong Democrats, at least in Hollywood, saying, I'm switching parties or changing affiliations or doing something, because having one party rule all is not a good thing. Now, the issue is now we having roadblocks.
What we're having is we're having it's too much partisan politics is what's going on here. We haven't learned
partisan politics and doing nothing legislatively.
Right.
To help the American people.
And we've got, that's what we've got to work on. And, there are some very tough issues out there, unfortunately, that's making it difficult for us to move forward. And the elephant in the room is the gun issue.
Yes.
And we need to, we've got to stop. If we could stop fighting on that issue and the war that's battling on this one and come to some common sense, let's move on to all the other issues that we need to do.
My problem is, and I know it's primary for you, I don't think it's the gun issue. Obama hasn't brought anything up. The Congress, Feinstein, after Sandy Hook, brought up a couple of, totally liberal,
John,
with gun bills.
There's a lot of them.
Oh, no,
there's so many right now that are floating out there.
The liberals are doing on a statewide basis what conservatives and ALEC did on a statewide basis with abortion. And you'll see that battle continue.
Well, here's the thing, and I don't know about other issues, but as a gun guy, the reason why, for me, I'll always fight against it is because it feels like I'm always giving away my rights for the illusion of safety instead of fighting the real problem with gun violence.
Well,
so they're taking away this.
We have a mental health issue. We have a mental health issue in this country that we're not addressing. And an example of this. Just you went to the doctor just recently, and there was a questionnaire that was handed to you, right?
Yeah, that was on the doctor's form is, do you have a gun or do you live in a house with a firearm?
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually going to answer that.
And they will tell you that they're checking to see if there's any possibility of suicide. Is what they'll tell you. Do you have access to a gun?
That's
to be complete
out, but I mean, it's an illegal question.
I'll be completely honest. If I decided to take a bullet, it's my damn choice. Not exactly the wisest choice. And please get help if you're going to do it, because the people who really care for you. But it's my decision.
But that's an example of the problem when you say that the gun issue isn't a main issue. I think if it's not the main one, it sure is tied up there.
I think corporate citizenship is a bigger issue than your gun issue.
Well, I think it's one of the big issues. I would also agree with we need public financing of all elections, no private money, period. But I think it's one of the three, because the reason why I say that is because love it or hate it, gun issue is a rights issue.
I don't say it's not a rights issue, but it's not the primary rights issue.
No,
So our opinion may be that it is. Your opinion is what? What is the main issue?
The main issue is the fact that we no longer work together on anything. So everything becomes an antagonistic confrontation.
So
give me your guns. Give me your.
Exactly.
All this kind of
there
stuff.
you go. But you're
something
saying
out.
it.
We're
You're
stealing that from. It's all bullshit. It's a media argument. It's a circus being put on for their benefit, so they have something to put on the airways that will hit somebody's hot button. Get them all revved up.
It's the uber liberals, for their constituents. They want to look like they're doing something when in fact all they're doing is harming the people that are following the laws anyway. The
matter is, if we would begin to go back to a conciliatory where all Americans, yes, we do disagree, but if we put our heads together, we can find a way to make this work.
Yes.
I'll give you a little, you give me a little, but it's flat out. I mean, nobody that I know of, and maybe after Sandy Hook and I missed it, did the federal government come and say, screw it, we're coming to get all the guns. That's it, you can't have guns. Now, to listen to Second Amendment people, the black ops helicopters with the guys coming down the roads were over everybody's house.
Well, I'll be complete.
Nowhere have I heard the feds. I mean, this thing about Obama wants to take your guns away.
I'll be completely honest. I'll be honest, John. The only reason why, and I think this happens with anything you're really interested to, is I follow it closer than 99.9% of anybody out there because I'm a gun guy. I guarantee if you're a person who's passionate about abortion issues or women's rights issues, or, I don't know, the pink-toed tarantula issue, you're going to know more about that issue than anybody else. And so, yeah, the federal government was really kind of going, now we can start taking more, because they were. You start reading their websites and blogs and interviews, they were trying to take things away.
Wait, websites, blogs, interviews, where's the legislation, Jonathan?
Oh, it's
on the state level, it's crazy.
Yeah, at state level, it is. It's totally nuts. But
state level, it's more.
At
least in California.
But they're out there in the federal arena as well, because you've got I
don't think it's
Pelosi.
much, though. I really don't.
Pelosi comes out. We've talked about the three Bain ladies.
Feinstein put up some kind of bullshit bill with a bad description of the gun after Sandy Hook. It went nowhere.
Right.
It died.
I do think John's right, though.
They keep bringing it back, John. They don't let it go. It keeps bringing it back. I'll be happy to send you the whole list of bills.
And they won't let it go. They become polarizing ideological issues rather than things that we can find a common ground on and move to a solution.
I won't disagree with you on that.
I think our biggest problem in the United States is now we're having world view issues. We're having visions of an American issue, and granted, I'm conservative, so I'm going to slant one way versus another. But I think it comes towards, at least on the liberal view, is trust the government more. A little this, a little this. The Republican, is generally like, well, it's less government, more business. The business is always right. The problem is we have such extreme worldview issues. One's more business-oriented, one's more utopian, and no vision on left or right is a very healthy vision without compromise.
There is no vision. There is only imagination and creating allegations of things that, even if you proved it, wouldn't change the fact that our veterans need to be treated like human beings. People deserve a fair job at a fair wage, so we can rebuild the middle class and build industry in this country, which we offshored to South Korea.
No, I agree. I've been, as a guy who's obviously trying to make.
If you ask me about that, I'd say, well, let's have a vote on it, because we can deal with the gun rights, but let's get people with jobs and get money back in their.
There's absolutely no disagreement that there should be bigger issues. All right, I agree with you. We need to get the country working again.
Why have American corporations that are holding on to trillions of dollars? They won't invest in jobs and in the workforce in America.
As a guy who's
big government, he'd pull the money right out of the corpse and say, let's go. Well, you're hiring people.
So as a guy who, who's part owner of a small business, who's technically been unemployed for 5 years, and know more people unemployed looking for money, I totally understand that. I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you, I'm as conservative as you get. Some issues I make Rush Limbaugh look like a commie, but we need to.
So let me ask you a question here. One of the other rulings we didn't bring up that the court also ruled on was Harris versus Quinn. And if you're not familiar with that one, that's the one where if you go into work and it's a union job, you must join the union.
No, it's not that broad. The decision is not that broad.
The decision is I didn't say it. Just give me a second.
He was reading the description.
I was reading the description. Basically, what they're saying is they did say in their decision is that no, you do not have to join the union. Period. That's all it was done.
No, they said that in the case of home healthcare workers, they do not, that only work in the home, they do not, and you cannot mandate that they pay union dues because they don't make enough money.
Yeah.
It is not a broad union bill, and that's one of the things about the decision. It was both of these decisions were eye of a needle narrow. They were not broad decisions.
They
serve the purposes of the two complaints. If you work for Verizon and you're a member of the CWA and you're not a member or not a member, they're going to still take union dues out of your check.
I will have to say the only Supreme Court one that I remember being very happy for, and one that I know John's rallied against, and rallied for, depending on what side of the argument you're on, is the Supreme Court saying cell phones are protected and need warrants in order to be searched.
That was to stop the NSA, and it was a unanimous decision.
And it was the right one.
Well, here's the thing. Not only at the NSA, because here's something that they don't really tell you, is the fact law enforcement, if you were a thug, you're a guy, no matter what they would do is they'd connect your cell phone, dump everything. Now, in order to touch that, to touch your contacts list, they need a warrant, which finally the laws actually catch up with the technology. Because now they can't touch it. I don't even. Do they? The question.
They convicted a guy by accessing the GPS and saying he was there. The GPS says so. Well, the problem of it is it's not quite 1984 yet, so we're all not chipped at birth.
So
since the GPS service on the telephone came, it was something he was paying for, whether he knew it or not. And they tried to use, and that's what.
Now
you can't do that without a warrant.
Now here's the little bit. I got this from CNET.com. It says U.S. Supreme Court unanimously held Wednesday that cell phones are protected from warrantless searches, ruling on 2 cases in which police searches of mobile devices led to long prison sentence. The decision provides a vindication for personal privacy and Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search at a time when so much of an individual's personal life is on their mobile device. Chief Justice Roberts wrote, our answer to the question what police must do before searching a cell phone seized at an incident to arrest is accordingly simple. Get a warrant. Finally, something I really agree with.
It's all the way it always was, and J. Edgar Hoover didn't get warrants, and they'll continue to not get warrants, and they'll continue to get warrants. Thank God, in Watergate, they got warrants.
And this is cool because the technology now, police loved it. Back in the day you heard cops loved baggy pants. Cops love cell phones because your life's on there and they didn't need anything. They didn't need jack, man, to look at it.
The first thing they do with these suspects, they went and got home and took down his computer and took the hard drive.
Right.
Cleaned the hard drive. Where's the Fourth Amendment right to privacy to that?
Yeah, good question, huh?
All right, your papers are a large portion of your personal property that's protected by the Fourth Amendment, because the Fourth Amendment goes all the way back to quill, pen, and parchment. So what you wrote down could be your deepest and most personal feelings, which just because you wrote them down, they're a matter of public record now.
Well, if you want to protect it, ladies and gentlemen, just keep sending it back and forth to you and a friend. They can't touch it.
It's just. We've also walked this ground many times with the Fourth Amendment. It's way out of control. The Patriot Act did it. You've heard me bitch and complain because the President, the Congress, and the Senate seem to be able to renew the Patriot Act in 2 seconds with no argument and no debate.
There is now a benefit of all this is Microsoft, Google, all the giant email providers are now doing end-to-end encryption, meaning that if I email, Bob, it's all protected. Granted, government knocks on your door, they can still get in because they have the back door. But that does stop agencies like the NSA from spying on you when they don't have the encryption keys.
I understand the issue. That I just get so the NSA doesn't have enough people to spy on 315 million people all at once. I have never woken up in the middle of the night and felt compromised.
No,
Now,
I agree.
in the attorney world, there are different issues. But in my world, it's like, if you're going to waste their time on me, come on.
Well,
Come on, waste some more time on me.
Well, for one thing,
Somebody's getting away with something.
I'm a 30-year-old white guy. I guarantee I'm in their bracket of large searches, but I don't, if I make about a joke about Obama or a gun, I don't want some computers in some place going, connecting to 3 dots in my name, and next thing I know, I get a black helicopter landing on my lawn.
The point is you're aware of it, the fact that they have keywords that they've been looking at for years and years and years, and they're there. So then it's up to them to decide if it's worth looking further.
I made an employment application that obviously on certain levels I didn't respond with the keyword that they wanted.
Right.
That's why I spent 9 hours thinking over what I wrote.
Damn.
Well,
And
no, it's important. It's no different than that doctor giving you that sheet of paper and him wanting to infringe on your privacy. I mean, to me, the gall to ask a question
I would hope
like
that you did not answer that question.
He did not.
No, I didn't answer it.
And I don't want to, and I'm not going to.
And I'm not going to, yeah.
So I was actually hoping he would physically ask me because a friend of mine brought something up. I should have just said Moulin Labe and leave it at that.
I'm lost.
It's in Moulin Labe. It's Greek for come take it.
Oh.
I wouldn't answer it because honestly, it's nobody's.
Just hey, I'm not answering that question.
Yeah.
Oh no, and that's what I was going to say. I would have said, if I do or do not, it's none of your damn business.
And you know what? Both of you had the decisions that one, he had the right to say, well, you know what? I don't want to be your doctor. And you had the right to say, you know what? I don't want you to be my doctor.
Now I have to answer your question, Jonathan. The question was this your private physician or was this the Indian Medical Center?
It's that,
The
which is
Indian
my new
Medical Center.
private physician.
Yeah.
Well, that means that because of Obamacare,
Mm-hmm.
that question probably was added.
And here's the reason I had this discussion with my cousin. And
point.
here's the reason why this scares me.
If I ever get Obamacare, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reason this scares me is now you're going to have people, and this is my conspiracy theory. So, you're going to have people who obviously have depression, maybe not bad, but don't want to tell their doctor because if the doctor, depending on which way the doctor leans, may get their guns removed. So you're going to have people lying to the person trying to help you. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that scares me.
You're going to have to show me the bat phone in the doctor's office where he calls up and says, "Attorney's got guns."
Well, isn't the doctor's right if they feel freaky about somebody? They have the requirement to report it?
HIPAA laws are pretty strong, and for a doctor to step over that, I think is a problem.
I'm one of those people that's pretty much if I've decided I have a doctor I'm working with, I don't withhold anything from him. It's I want him to take the best care of me he possibly can. So if I still drop LSD on the weekends, I don't.
An old guy in LSD. There's an interesting thought.
And he should know about that, and I would tell him.
Right.
He'd probably say you should stop that.
Probably. But I think
Or take a stronger dose.
The paranoid worry out there is how far will a doctor that you don't know or a clinic you go to that you haven't been to before, what will they do with your private information? And again, the answer is in the HIPAA laws. He cannot disclose anything to anyone. The doctors have the protection to keep everything confidential.
I do have a question, and this I got to warn you, this is very left field. So I know if a doctor feels that a child is getting raped, they have a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
as a teacher, I have a requirement.
Now, what is stopping them from doing the same with if somebody has a gun and the guy is obviously a little sad or a lot sad? What is stopping them from having the requirement to do something similar? A little wacky, but...
Well, at this point...
He's got it in the office, or he just knows that you own a gun?
Well, we'll say like the question, say I answered yes to had a gun, and I just went in there one day, and I was just obviously head over tea kettles depressed. What's really stopping him from going, knocking on the local PD and say, Mr. Charney I'm really afraid for his life. You really need to take his firearms.
Yeah,
just
curious.
curious.
You can't do that. Number one, you can't do that.
Well,
you have a Second Amendment right.
Yeah, I mean, legally...
you're worried about something that can't happen.
No, I'm just curious.
I know where you're, and I know exactly where you're coming from, because it's easy in this society today to be a little bit paranoid about where your information goes.
Let me stop you for a second. It is necessary in the society we have developed into a society of anger and fear. End of story. Continue.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I'm not afraid or angry most of the time.
But no, but the point is there, and I think when we get into, I really believe we still need to get into the answer on the mental health issues, and I also think that we need to aim laws that really are effective against criminals and not taking rights away from legitimate citizens.
Well, on the
okay, that's where I stand with that.
Sorry, I do have one. I want to talk about the mental health issue when you get done with something.
All right. Well, no, I think mental health issue is going to be one that we should be talking about every few shows, because it's a big one. And
but Rob, you objected to them asking a mental health question on a questionnaire for you.
Exactly, and that's the point. We have to find out how do we get the right answers, and how do we really know, is this person truly depressed or not? A couple of these shootings taken place. The one where the young man stole his mother's gun, killed his mother, went into the school.
That was
right.
That was her fault.
Okay.
Sandy Hook, right?
The point is that she knew that her son was mentally ill.
Right.
She took no action.
But here's the issue. And I don't disagree with you on one level. I do disagree with you on a level that I shouldn't be able to perceive. I think you would. She was a mother. She was a single mother. Everybody in the family knew that the kid was just a turd. I mean, he was just weird, strange, deranged,
right,
and otherwise insane. She let him fire guns.
Yeah.
She let him have access to the gun cabinet. She's dead, and so are a bunch of other people. But as a parent, I mean, she was dealing with, do I commit my son? Which to a certain, some people would take that level of, God, I'm genetically, was it my husband's fault? Was it my fault? I have one normal. I mean, there are huge mental health issues on the parental level.
Right.
And how do you, quote unquote, how do you commit your kid?
I do have opinion on this. Granted, I don't have kids, but I do think you have a responsibility, not only as a person, but as a parent, to realize, okay, my kid is obviously a little weird on this area. I need to do something to protect him and me from this, which means get a gun safe, don't lock it up, rent someplace you can put them at a friend's house. She had a responsibility, and she should have been able to recognize, at least on some level.
She did not.
Yeah, she should have been able to recognize that.
She knew.
And see, that's the problem. Is if she knew.
She was sleeping with a time bomb. She was sleeping with a pit bull that was a bad boy.
And then she made a piss poor decision that hurt a lot of people. And she paid the ultimate price by not being able to realize that her son was a danger.
I mean, and we've gotten to the end of the show nearly, but at the same time, I mean, Santa Monica College, what was it, 2, 3 dead? No big deal. Santa Barbara, 3 dead. Sandy Hook. We, as Americans, and it causes you and me consternation, we just like solving problems by shooting people. And that is a social condition that, and I don't know. That kid in Santa Barbara was definitely whack.
Was that the Hollywood guy's son?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that was the dad's issue too. Because
believe me, I was the one that was in the mental institution for having a gun in his face when he was 11, and it was me who finally said to the people at the loony bin, can we call my parents, because they're kind of the reason I did this. I just didn't say, screw it. There was something going on that made me think that continuing to exist was probably not a good idea. But at that point in time, your parents, no, your parents are paragons. Well, we were all dysfunctional. We still are. It's a heavy issue. It's a heavy issue, but I have just gotten to the point where allegations don't fly anymore. I hate to nail you guys, but man, if I come with a deal, I will come with the facts and figures. And we're just, because what we're doing is the allegations just feed the separation. You did this, you did that. It's back to junior high school on the playground here. and we're not getting anything meaningfully done. And yeah, I think the American people are pissed, and I want to see what happens in 2014. I think that your Supreme Court decision, and I don't mean that possessively for you, will backfire with women.
Yeah, that would be.
The
And I think you
Party's
meant
not real in touch with women.
and I think you meant the 2016.
I
see what 2016 is going to look like. And,
Hey! You gotta like Bill Maher. He told Hillary to stay home.
Well, here,
That's
the
true.
sexist son of a bitch.
Her book tour. I mean, it's proving to me she don't run.
Well, here's
Gosh, I
here's
hope
the
she
thing
doesn't.
about the Hobby Lobby case that is interesting. I know plenty of women that are completely fine with it and say it was probably a good decision. So
And you know a bunch of conservative women. You do not know women in general. Go down to Sacramento.
I
stand
know.
up at Capitol Mall and ask all these women that work for the
Look
state
who's
and for
casting
industry.
dispersions. I know people of from going from a commie to being extremely conservative. I know a lot of people who like it, who dislike it, but I do know a fair amount of women who are just like, that's fine with me. So
I think what happens is this is the whole reason we're doing this show. It's to bring up issues and to let people out there, if they want to spend a little bit of time watching our show, say, you know what, you guys are full of crap, or you know what, I agree with you, or whatever it may be. And
I just kind of enjoy trolling people.
That's
personally.
the whole idea.
I think we need to get an automated turd dinger, and that can turn on the light.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the whole thing is that we get an opportunity to talk about issues and good, right, indifferent, wrong, whatever. At least we get to air it, and it's there and it's out there, and agree or disagree, it doesn't matter, but the whole point is the discussion.
Our shit stinks and we don't care.
That's right.
And we do care, but yeah, and we've all been beaten except for Jonathan. He wants to go to war.
Yeah.
Me, I never said I want to go to war. I just want to be left alone.
Well, you're being. The problem is, Jonathan, being left alone like we were being. The way we could have been left alone at your age, as compared to the way that you're left alone at your age, you'll never be left alone.
Yeah.
I just want to be left.
It's out of the.
I want to be left alone. If I need the government's help, I'll knock on their door. I want to have a job, live my life, have a couple of kids, and tell the government to fuck off.
You know what's interesting? Who is enforcing Obamacare? IRS. I just love it.
Who's administrating Obama?
Yeah. No. Well, my question is, who's gonna do the enforcement? And in other words, if you don't get your Obamacare and you don't follow the rules, who's enforcing it?
Wait. Does this mean we're gonna have revenuers show up to the
I'm
house?
telling you. All I'm saying is
It's just like me. If I would not have applied for Obamacare by the deadline, I think it's $54. I would have been assessed on the 2014 tax return. The fact that I was approved by Obamacare, but I can't get any health care from LA County, is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not an Obamacare problem. I guess it's in LA County. My mistake was trying to be factual. I said I live in LA County. Rather, I should have done it in Kern. Fewer people. More people in the system, but
that's one of those hindsight issues, Is
This is what happens when you get government involved.
Your person needs to call you. It's pending.
Yeah.
Well, can somebody send me a freaking letter? Send me an email, a text, and tell me what you need to be unpending?
Smoke signals, semaphore.
I don't know. You talk to these poor doctors, and I've talked to quite a few here recently, and they just throwing their arms up at this whole issue.
The issue of it is, and this is very Obama, and I'm finding it with a lot of things. They pass it in Washington. They don't really care if it ever gets to California, or you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a sleeve job, and there's where I've got problems with the president and this administration, is they don't know how to deliver. But I find that to be a generational issue of those 20 years younger than me. They don't know how to deliver. They know how to talk about it in theory. They know how to, but they don't know how to get it done. I mean,
I don't think they give a shit.
I was reading the newspaper when I was up in Oregon, the Oregon, whatever.
Oregonian times.
Oregonian.
Moving, because they're rather conservative.
Yeah, but
and hippie-ish.
It's very interesting. Actually, they're pretty. I don't know. I find them both ways in Oregon. Oregon's an interesting state.
Hey, it's just like being in the foothills of California, brother.
Yeah.
Find reactionaries and radicals. They live right next door to one.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting now that you realize when you go to Oregon, I don't know if you've been recently, you cannot pump your own gas.
Yeah, I hate that. I actually really hate that.
It's kind of interesting.
If I had a bike, back in the day when they pulled up at the Custom Supreme pump on their Harleys, they said, give me the pump.
Well, what they do for the bike riders is they do that. They take your card, they punch in your card, they punch in your code, and they hand you the nozzle on motorcycles. But in cars, they put it in. You cannot touch that pump.
Because they need the jobs. What else are they going to do if you can't cut wood? You better pump gas.
I have to admit, I really hate that. The fact I'm having some high schooler pump my gas for me and I don't trust.
You know what? You know what you missed?
But hold on. I've never had full service. So I've been doing it my whole life.
Yes.
So I just don't like the feel of somebody doing it. I don't like it.
I loved it.
That high schooler knew 10 times more about your car, and you wanted him to check your tires, check your oil.
That's right. That's when you pulled up to a station, an actual gas station. You had a guy.
Sherman set the Wayback machine in 1960.
No kidding. I'm telling you, they pumped. How much fuel would you like? Do you want it full? Fine. We're going to wash your windshield. We'll wash your windshield. Your tires look low. We're going to check the pressure in your
windshield. I did not ask.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing, and all those jobs, of course, are gone. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, and that kind of care and service. In other words, I just had somebody change the oil on my car. Great oil. I'm happy with the whole thing, but they didn't put a sticker on my car.
Right.
The guy goes, well, but doesn't it ding, ding, ding when you need service? I said, not if your numbs don't know how to reset the ding, ding, ding. Either I write it down or I reset the ding, ding, ding.
What?
That's funny. So that
wow.
Today's modern car, and we don't know anything about it because the newest car we have is an 06.
No, I know a little bit about it because my car does it every 7,000 miles, and it's a pain in the ass to reset.
Says, hey, you need service.
I got to pop, rotate, shove. It's annoying as hell.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you got to push left, then you got to know.
I don't know.
I just, I'll be honest, if there was more full service stations in California, it wasn't going to cost me my first child to do, I probably would, but the fact that having somebody else pump my own gas kind of bugs me because I've never done full service.
So I've been criticized by all my conservative friends because I really think that the WPA during the Depression and all that we did for our infrastructure was a fantastic idea.
I agree.
And
I agree with
we
you.
need to go back to that, and these jobs are examples of that.
I agree.
It is you don't have a generation, and I take it when they call the World War II generation our best, they're probably right. But you don't have a generation that cares, and you haven't had one for 2 or 3 years. They just want to show up, get down. You want me to walk out there and pump the gas?
Yeah, it's 100 degrees outside. Are you crazy?
No,
and you want me to wash their windshield?
I'll be honest. I think you do have a generation cares. I just think you have a generation that's so jaded and so disenfranchised that just at the point, whatever, man.
All right, I'll tell you what. Put on our Facebook page, I want to do a poll. I want to know if
Better
you
write
out
it down
there,
so I remember.
Yeah, I want to know if you out there, being the millennials or whatever you want to call yourselves, would take a job, you're unemployed, would take a job at minimum wage and pump gas at a gas station.
Hey, California, that's almost $10 an hour.
That's right.
Or work at Hobby Lobby for 15.
2015.
Or work at Hobby Lobby.
John, what was that?
It's 2015 for $10 an hour.
2015 for $10.
Yeah.
Or work at Hobby Lobby for $14 to $15 an hour.
Fine, then go work at Hobby Lobby. But I want to know, would you do that? You've been unemployed for 3 years, 5 years, however long. Would you take a job that particular job if it was offered to you? Or, would you or would you not? That's what I want to know.
If they had that kind of a job, you know why? Because within a month's time, I would have networked with enough people that I wouldn't be working in the gas station anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I did work in the gas station. I had people offering me jobs all the time.
But, John, I'm not talking about you and I, okay? Because we grew up in that era, and that was the thing. I'm talking about Jonathan's generation. And
I am, too. You need self-starters. You need people that are, and you occasionally run into them that are, Hey, man, I want a job. What are you doing? That looks great. Can you tell me about that? I'm really interested. I'd like
Right.
to know how that goes.
Right. You know
I
how
just
hiring works
Very
now?
seldom are hit with a young person with that
I was
kind
going
of
to say,
a
I am a self-starter. We created this.
Well, okay, but another thing that's interesting that's happened with these large corporations, if you want to talk about having arguments with people, is their hiring practices.
Yes.
How do you get hired, let's say from Home Depot? All right, you know how you get hired? You have to apply for a job at Home Depot, you have to go online, you got to use your computer. You cannot walk into a Home Depot store, you
You
cannot
can
talk
walk
to a
into
manager.
Costco
Well,
and take your resume.
and that's the way it should be then.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah, see,
you know.
I'm
But
You know, I applied online. I just decided to stop by the store because it's close, it's convenient. It's tough to get jobs at Costco because they have, they're waiting for their first generation of employees to retire.
right. People don't leave. They get a job there, they stay.
And it's a great place to work.
Right.
Great benefits and pays well.
Yeah.
I just, I just miss the day when I could walk in, shake somebody's hand, because I'm a hard person to forget. So I miss that. Instead, everything's handled like at Home Depot in Georgia, of all places. So much for me getting the job there.
Well, but people do because there are people working in a store in California.
No, I know,
I
but-
talked to a lady. It took her 2 years.
Nepotism and who you know is more important now than it's ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Totally.
if I wanted to spend the money and go hire and go sit through this class of the California State Job Consultant in Bakersfield in Sacramento, who's got like an 89% placement rate,
Wow.
but that's because he's tied in the Democratic government, and you know what I mean, and that could change in another gubernatorial election. Government jobs, unfortunately, are forever. If you get, but it's who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, but we're getting away from that too, because even as the Home Depot example goes, I have a friend that I've known for quite a while, and he's working at Home Depot, and I said, hey, Jonathan's interested in maybe getting a part-time job at Home Depot. How you go about it? And he says, unfortunately, Rob, there is nobody here to talk to. There's nobody that I can talk to. Using my name won't help you at all. It's all done by somebody in Georgia who looks at your little test that you do, and that's how the decision is made to be hired or not.
I think the show's coming to a close because John got up.
Those tests. I'll be right.
Well, I was almost afraid what he was going to show us there. Yeah, it got a little weird. But anyway, the point is. The point is, it's
We
made
control
it
the
difficult.
vertical.
And I would like to see though us put a little poll up somewhere with that question. If all right, you're unemployed right now. If you had an opportunity to work at a gas station, pumping gas, washing windshields, checking your oil and putting air in your tires for $10 an hour, would you take that job? And I think that's what we need to know, because if the answer is no, then these people are obviously not hungry enough, and in my opinion, we're giving them too much in the government. They must be collecting food stamps and welfare, and that pays more than $10 an hour.
Then they're just financially making more sense.
I don't know.
What was it the old thing? If you're getting more from the government than you would from the job, financially
yeah,
speaking, it's
and they
better
don't.
getting free stuff from the government.
But all of that's got limits now, though, right? I mean, unemployment has limits. I think
You're
welfare
asking the
has
wrong guy on
limits.
that one.
I don't know. Either.
Welfare
And-
does. I do know that
well,
unemployment.
I-
And it looks like John is stepping out. It looks like we're coming close to the
Well, we've
hour.
gone way over an hour anyway, even on our second go here. So I think maybe it is time to wrap it up. So I want to thank those of you out there who took the time to watch the show. Thank you very much for watching Old Guy Tech's Opinion versus Opinion. This is Rob Charney for John Manajasi, who just came back, and Jonathan Charney. We'll see you next week.